Opening. Welcome to your daily market news briefing for Friday, August 26, 2026. I'm your host, and here is where things stand today. NVIDIA is the market's main event. Earnings Eve has the stock up 2.19% at $213.05 on 122 million shares, while analysts project a $280 billion market cap swing. It is the kind of event that moves the entire AI narrative into high gear. At the same time, the PCE inflation print came in hotter than expected, pulling indices lower and complicating the tech rally just as earnings season is heating up. In mega-cap tech, Meta agreed to pay up to $16.68 billion to settle state harm claims, and the stock rose on the relief, a major overhang lifted. Meanwhile, a quiet revolution is unfolding in digital payments. JPMorgan, BofA, and Citigroup are actively weighing stablecoin launches, sending Circle's stock lower. On the retail side, Q2 beats came from Washington, not the consumer, and the sector was mixed to weak. Nike was downgraded as DKS cratered 30.7%. Biotech under pressure with Moderna down 7%, and across the market, technical signals were distinctly bearish with 36 bearish vs. 14 bullish among 10,778 symbols analyzed. Let's get to the details. Segment 1, NVIDIA, Earnings Eve and the $280 billion swing. NVIDIA dominated the headlines today as the market's single most important event looms. The stock traded at $213.05. Up 2.19% with a massive 122 million shares changed hands, the highest volume among large-cap names. And yet the conversation was not about where the stock is today, but what it could do tomorrow. Bank of America said NVIDIA is checking every box and forecast $1 billion in daily free cash flow within a year. That is a staggering figure, and it fundamentally reframes how investors think about the company's cash-generating capacity. Guru Focus highlighted that NVIDIA earnings could trigger a $280 billion market cap swing, while Raymond James and Motley Fool both framed the event as potentially the most consequential near-term catalyst for the entire tech sector. The hedge fund complex is also positioning aggressively. A leading hedge fund placed massive bets on Broadcom, Avgo, and Intel Inc., suggesting that smart money is not just loading NVIDIA but diversifying across the AI infrastructure stack. Micron MU received positive coverage around memory demand, and Marvell Technology MRVL, reporting earnings on August 27, one day after NVIDIA, was highlighted as a potential pop candidate. The broader thesis is clear: the AI hardware buildout is proceeding at blistering speed, and NVIDIA is at the center of it. But the question on every table is simple: is all of that already priced in? Segment 2, Mega Cap Tech, Meta's $18 billion settlement and Amazon's move-no. Meta announced it would settle landmark state child harm claims for between $16.68 and $18 billion, with the stock rising as the deal removed what multiple outlets described as a major overhang. CNN Business, IBT, Proactive, and MT Newswires all covered the settlement. The company also promised changes to its platforms. By clearing this regulatory and legal impediment, Meta has freed up capital and focused management energy, and the market rewarded the move. On the Amazon front, the story was multifaceted. Amazon's AWS division is acquiring Duck Labs, which deepens Amazon's edge in container and cloud-native technology. Billionaire investors are quietly accumulating Amazon stock while it trades at value-like multiples, according to Motley Fool. And the Teamsters Union demanded Chicago pass the Delivery Protection Act, a reminder of the complex labor dynamics underneath the e-commerce giant's vast distribution network. Separately, InterDigital AIXI saw momentum in its patent licensing business and is targeting $1 billion in recurring revenue, with Apple and Amazon referenced in the ecosystem. The interplay between these megacaps, their supply chains, their competitive positioning, their regulatory environments, creates the structural backbone of the market right now. Segment 3, Big Banks enter stablecoins, a regime change in digital payments. Perhaps the most quietly transformative story of the day involved the traditional banking system. JPMorgan, along with Bank of America and Citigroup, is actively weighing a stablecoin launch, and the push is accelerating across the large-cap banking lobby. Bankless and MT Newswires both reported on what many are calling a fundamental regime change in how traditional finance approaches digital payments. For CRCL, the incumbent stablecoin leader, the news was not welcome. Circle's stock fell as investors worried about competitive pressure from well-capitalized, relationship-rich banks with distribution networks spanning the globe. Visa moved into the fray with its Bloom initiative aimed at cross-border digital payments. Visa V, MasterCard MA, and American Express AIXI are now squarely pitted against the crypto-native stablecoin ecosystem. The implication: the infrastructure layer of global payments is undergoing its most significant restructuring in decades, and everyone, from fintech disruptors to the oldest names in finance, is racing to define what comes next. Segment 4: Inflation, the PCE flash that complicated the rally. The PCE inflation data came in higher than expected, and the market reacted swiftly. Zacks and other outlets flagged the surprise print. The Dow eased on the print, and across major indices DJI, GSBC, RUT, broader markets softened as well. This is a critical complication. Just weeks into earnings season, with AI-related names at the center of the bull market, hotter than expected inflation data raises the question of what the Federal Reserve might do in response. The data also cast a shadow on the AI/tech rally narrative, with Avgo and NVIDIA cross-referenced as the names most sensitive to rate expectations. The broader takeaway: inflation has not been tamed as confidently as markets had priced. That means the path forward for monetary policy remains uncertain, and earnings reports, coming at a time when guidance matters more than ever, will be scrutinized through that lens. Segment 5: Retail and Consumer, Policy Beats, Not Demand. Sachs reported that the big retail Q2 beats were driven by Washington, meaning government policy and legislation, rather than underlying consumer strength. The distinction matters enormously for WMT, KSS, BBWI, ANF, and WSM. If the upside comes from a legislative tailwind instead of consumer demand, it is less sustainable. On the apparel side, Truist downgraded Nike and KE, citing that a DKS update clouded turnaround progress. DKS stock itself cratered 30.68% to close at $124.31 with 38.8 million shares in volume. That is a staggering decline for a name of that stature, and it signals deep concern about footwear and sporting goods retail. Bath and Body Works BBWI Q2 earnings highlights circled as well, but the broader retail picture remains fragile. Segment 6: Biotech under pressure. Moderna mRNA dropped 7% despite a fresh upgrade from Wolfe Research, with 24/7 Wall Street questioning the stock's valuation relative to revenue. Trefis flagged that Moderna's market cap carries a value its revenue does not support, referencing MRK, Fee, Ulnai, and SRPT in the biotech context. Bio and Tech BNTX slipped alongside, confirming that the pressure is sector-wide, not idiosyncratic. The biotech complex, underperforming even as tech rallies, remains a place where investors are picking through valuations with extreme skepticism. Segment 7: Technical Signals, Bearish Skew Across the Market. Across 10,778 symbols analyzed, the technical signal snapshot was distinctly bearish, 36 bearish signals versus 14 bullish. The bullish flags included RFI, NWOW, SKY, RFAU, and BTCT, all showing strong momentum up. The bearish flags were dominated by overextension calls on RFAU, RFI, BTOG, DEQUA, and MVIS. The lopsided bearish count suggests that even among names with strong trends, there is elevated caution. Segment 8: The Tape, Top Movers and High Volume Names. Now let's get to the tape for your quick mover rundown. On the gainers side, AIXI surges 186.3% to $1.31 on 251 million shares. DAIC rocketed 124.3% to $3.88 on 144 million shares. NCPL, the highest volume mover of the day, climbed 126.8% to $0.58 with 498 million shares changing hands. PMI gained 86.2% to $9.55 on 42 million shares. On the decliners, TPC cratered 80.7% to $17.06. FVN fell 52.5% to $9.43. DKS, already highlighted, dropped 30.7%. SDOT fell 29.4% to $16.35. Archon came off 28.9% to $2.04 on 20 million shares. The highest volume names to watch: NCPL at 498 million shares, AIXI at 251 million, NVIDIA at 122 million, and DKS at 38.8 million with that massive 30% sell-off. And other deals worth noting: Victory Capital VCTR agreed to acquire First Eagle for $7 billion. This is a substantial consolidation play in the asset management space. Segment 9. Other headlines and cross-sector notes. Securian Saiku announced a reverse stock split effective August 28. McDonald's MCD had its price target cut by Rothschild to $285 from $306. Comcast CMXA is expanding high-speed internet to Deerfield, New Hampshire. Coca-Cola's KO stock split history and prospects were analyzed by The Street. Morgan Stanley highlighted for impressive first half 2026 results, with JPM and GS also referenced in the financials. ASTS was in focus as the Bluebird launch push accelerated, with growth colliding with a premium valuation, and VZ referenced as a potential collaborator. Sign off. So here is the world you are walking into on Friday, August 26, 2026. NVIDIA earnings are the market's defining event. A $280 billion swing, BofA projecting $1 billion in daily free cash flow per day within a year, and a hedge fund stacking Avgo and Inc. on the same thesis. Meta clears and $18 billion overhang with its state teen harm settlement and rallies. But inflation just threw a wrench in the narrative. PCE came in hotter than expected, pulling the Dow and broader indices lower. Big banks like JPM, BAC, and C are weighing stablecoin launches, sending CRCL lower and forcing Visa, MasterCard, and Amex to deploy counter moves like Visa's Bloom initiative. Retail tells a nuanced story. Q2 beats came from Washington, not the consumer, and DKS cratered 30.7% while Nike was downgraded by Truist. Biotech is under pressure with Moderna down 7% and Trefis flagging valuation disconnects. Technical signals across 10,778 symbols are lopsided bearish, 36 versus 14. And the tape shows massive speculative action in AIXI up 186%, NCPL up 127% on 500 million shares, and DGS minus 30% on 39 million. The market tells two stories at once, a magnificent AI and mega-cap tech theme at the center, running into inflation warnings, consumer fragility, and extreme technical caution. Thanks for listening. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, stay informed. Sign off. This has been your market news briefing for Friday, August 26, 2026.